welcome to Insight for Life's Relationship Talk. I'm Patricia Ireland of Insight for Life, and I am the Relationship Magic Coach for those of you who haven't met me yet. Welcome to the group, newbies. Glad to have you here. So today we're going to be talking about limiting beliefs. What are they? What do they do? How are they destructive? And how do we transform them? So, as per usual, Jeff will be joining me in just a second. Oops. So, limiting beliefs are those beliefs going on behind the scenes in our subconscious mind that kind of rule what we do and how we do it and why we do it. And these are the things that tend to affect what we're doing and why we're doing it, or what we're not doing and not doing it. Ooh. It is warm in here today. Oh, we are lovely. If you're outside of Ontario, we usually go by Fahrenheit, but it is like 30 degrees out today. If you're in the States or somewhere else, I think it's like 80, almost 90 degrees here. It's crazy. And here comes Jeff. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going? I always forget
Good,
how to
how are you?
join.
I almost forgot.
I always forget how to join. It takes me a while to figure it out every time.
Yeah. Well, glad you made it.
Yeah, me too.
So how's your week been?
It's good. Yeah, it's been a good week. How about you?
Good. Busy.
Yeah.
It is hot here today. Oh my goodness. Melting. So today we're talking about limiting beliefs. You don't have any of those, do you?
No, none.
No.
Maybe that is a
No,
limiting
no.
belief, huh?
So what are these limiting beliefs for those who may not know?
I think they're, in my opinion, they're things that we've, whether it's something that's happened to us in the past, or something that's happened to somebody else, and it's things that we use to create a story in our minds so that we don't have to try to do something, or yeah, I think that's about it for me. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. It's those hanging in the subconscious mind from when we're children that we've gathered over the years and just didn't even realize we gathered, but they're like these agreements we've made based on what other people have said or done, and we just tend to hang on to those because it's what we believe we know as the truth.
Yeah.
So do you have any examples of what a limiting belief is?
Well, I was actually just on a call where we were talking about this in relation to emotional intelligence. And growing up, it wasn't really encouraged to share feelings. It was kind of expected that you worked through things on your own, and if you were running into trouble, there was usually a logical conversation that could be had that would work through whatever you were going on. And so, for a long time, I learned that it was not okay to share what I was feeling, to the point of where I would kind of stuff them down. And I think I got really good at managing myself, like my emotional levels. My wife likes to say I go from a 2 to a 4, and that's about it. But that's I don't know that has served me well. But there's some part of me that thinks I'm going to get in trouble if I access my feelings or share my feelings. So it's just not something you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and there's limiting beliefs surrounding even that, like the words we'd hear from people, you're a sissy if cry, or you're a sissy, or you're crazy if they're sharing stuff, anything like that. There's voices behind it, so they kind of dictate and solidify these beliefs.
Yeah, yeah, I can picture a time in 5th grade when we were watching a movie where animal, I couldn't tell you what movie it was. It was something with a dog, and the dog ends up, and I don't think it was Old Yeller, but it was similar to that, right? Where the dog, something bad ends up happening to the dog. And I started crying in 5th grade and was made fun of relentlessly for that for quite a while. So you learn not to do things like that, and so I've had to unlearn that.
Yeah. When really those are teachable moments, but we didn't know that we don't know that as a child. But that's the perfect opportunity to actually say there's it's a human emotion. This is what we do.
Yeah.
But there's so many of these things that affect us when it comes to these limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And so how do we get them? How do we collect them?
So I want to ask before we move on, I want to ask what's one that you have.
Oh goodness, I've had many. Let's see. Believing that I had to work hard for my money. And another was that, like, I came from a family where we struggled. And there were 5 of us siblings. So, you don't expect things, and you don't, we were very gracious, and we were taught to be gracious and things like that, but what we did receive. So there's beliefs too that, I didn't deserve more, or I couldn't achieve more, or because this is where you are type of thing. So it was limiting my, I guess, status in life or position in life. And also surrounded, like in school, I used to think I was not stupid, but not the brightest, just because I always felt that I was like this kind of standard. I wasn't, the high achiever. I wasn't, but it was just a belief system that I had that I couldn't do better or achieve better, that this is where I was at. So I remember getting a high mark in school the one year. I think it was in English. So I knew right away I was excelling in English, but it was like, what? What here? What are you saying? Like, I remember being shocked, because it was like I was always like a general average. I saw myself as average. So when we see ourselves there, we achieve that.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Yeah, there are a lot. I'm sitting here. I've got several running through my head now.
Go for
now
it.
that we're talking about it.
Examples are good.
Yeah, one of the ones that I always had was, reward was achievement based. So you had to excel at something. You had to do, you had to be the best. You had to get good grades. You had to, and you were rewarded for these things that you achieved. Not that you tried, not that you put in effort. It was how you finished. And so that's one that's taken a long time to unlearn, and trying really hard not to pass that on to my kids.
Yeah. And it like, from my experience, like feeling average and mediocre, it can happen on the other scale too. Some people, receive everything and they get whatever they want, and it's not to shame it. It's just there's always a balance, and it's limiting ourselves to, we don't, you know, it's beneath me to work, or it's, you know, beneath me to not get what I want type of thing. So there's always the variant sides of these beliefs. So it's not just one side or the other.
Yeah.
But it's really about balancing them out.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get these? How do we soak them in and they end up getting stuck in there?
Well, I think in some way it's based on something that's happened to us, you know, or some way that we've been treated in the past, and you know, and I think there's a part of it that supports us, right? That makes
Feels
where
safe.
we're at, huh?
It feels safe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it makes wherever you're at feel okay. That it's okay to be there, or to not try, or to settle, or whatever it may be, or to accept this person. So, yeah, I think that's why they're hard to let go of, is because they do support us, and they do make us feel good in
Yeah,
where
and
we're
they
at.
seem like our norm. Like it's
Yeah,
how we're raised, it's what we've heard, you know, the language that was used, and it's like, this is it, this is what it is. And then when you hear and see different, we tend to judge it or put it down or shame it
yeah,
because it's not our norm and it doesn't make sense.
yeah, yeah. And you know, you said judge. I think that's exactly what we do, is we judge it and make it good or bad, right? And really, we have the opportunity through discernment to decide if it's good for us or if it's not good for us, but that doesn't collectively make it good or bad for everybody else either.
And that in itself, like by judging other people, that can really it's the things where, you know, if we gain that balance, those sort of things change, like the way we now can have compassion for other people when it comes to these things, because we don't know how other people lived, what they went through, what they heard, what they dealt
Yeah.
with. So how do they affect us besides the judging and criticizing others?
Well, I guess in some ways they keep us safe, but in other ways they keep us stuck, right? We don't take the risk we want to take. We don't put ourselves out there and be vulnerable and, you know, open ourselves up to whatever could happen, even if it's getting hurt. You know, so it allows us to play small.
And
It allows us
we tend to
not.
get upset too, like, because we feel like we're being, you know, tested. It's like it goes against us. So it's like, you know, it's, what do you mean this is how you do things? And it's like, well, yeah, you know, you feel self-conscious and like, you know, you're being tested on who you are. And it's like, it compromises kind of our own, and feels like it's compromising our integrity because like they're questioning it. And it's like,
Yeah,
well, this is who I am.
yeah,
This is who you are. This is who
yeah,
I am. So it can cause those conflicts with other people when because it feels like they're attacking your person, like you're who you
yeah,
are.
yeah. That's very true. But you know, I think ultimately they end up hurting us the most, probably, because we don't think we can do things that we want to try or want to do, and so we don't, and then there's regret and resentment, that other people are able to and we're not.
And it seems like it's pushing it that much farther away. It's like that part of that belief becomes, well, that's for those people, not for
Yeah,
not for me. That's, you know, they're millionaires, or they grew up that way, or we have like agreements to how it's okay for them and why it's not okay for us.
yeah,
So how do these limiting beliefs affect our relationships? Have you noticed that in your own relationship, how they interfere?
Well, I think in some ways, we don't put ourselves fully out there because we believe we're going to get hurt. Maybe we've gotten hurt in the past when we've tried to put ourselves out there. So, it stops us from showing up as us, and it stops true connection from happening because we're conforming to what we think the other person wants or what we should be. I don't know. What do you think about the
Yeah,
impact on
definitely.
relationships?
It's that living in each other's brain thing. It's like we don't, and so they don't know what beliefs or limiting beliefs that are limiting beliefs we've come into the relationship with, or we might still have that, creep in. So it's like still needing to work through. Different ones pop up still where it's like, oh, that's true too, like
Yeah.
being able to talk about those things because it's where we're coming from. It's not necessarily where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So meeting in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like not believing that you don't deserve to be happy.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people believe that, and that can play a major role in your relationships because you're always trying to find ways to sabotage it if you don't really believe that it could happen.
One my husband has is like taking risks. I think I mentioned this before, but he
Uh-huh.
really struggles with taking risks because it's like, no, I know he likes to know what he has and where it is and what it's for, and so taking those risks. And I'm like a medium risk taker. I don't like to go all crazy, but I like to take some risks. Life should be fun, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, and I'm like, but yeah, this is what we would accomplish with that. And he's like, no. So there's some struggles that happen too because he's a definite no, and I'm like, come on, let's go.
Yeah. Well, even when it comes to roles in the relationship, right? Like, what's the man's job in the relationship? Yeah. What's the woman's job in the relationship? I have a good friend who has very old-fashioned beliefs about what marriage should look like, and it's really caused him to have a hard time finding somebody that he can spend his life with because I don't know that that's what everybody else believes. So, and maybe he'll find the right person at some point, but.
Yeah. And it's tough, especially this day and age. A lot more people are becoming a little more, with the economy the way it is, you tend to have to be dual income family these days.
Yeah.
So, when one partner's working or both partners are working, and if a man expects the woman to be taking care of the house, it's like, yeah, because it gets way too overwhelming for the woman. And my husband was very old-fashioned that way. His parents were, so it's what he knew. But he's come a long way from when we first met, because I was like, I wouldn't tolerate that from the beginning.
Yeah.
So it was always an issue until we worked through that. But it's about gaining those compromises, right? Those agreements together, and what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah,
Like
I mean, I'm more
hard no for him to do dishes.
hard no on the dishes.
You will not touch one.
I have a couple hard no's. One of them is making the bed. I think we've talked about that.
Yeah.
But I'm working from home, and so laundry needed to get done today. My wife's at work, and so I'm doing the laundry, and that's great. But we had to talk about that to make sure that it happens. So.
Yep, my husband does laundry.
I actually prefer to do the laundry these days. So that's become my job most of the time.
Yeah. It's even better when it's something we can tolerate, but
Yeah.
when it's, one of those irritating ones, it's like, come on, you can at
Yeah.
least share this.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we actually transform these? What do we do to eradicate the old limiting belief?
So I think the first thing we have to do is become aware of them, that they exist. If we're not aware of them, they're going to continue to limit us. A great exercise I got from Rhonda Britton was to look at something that you want in your life, like I want blank, and then on the other side of the paper, draw a line and write down why you don't have it, and why you think you don't have it. And that's a great way, I think, to really flush out some of what those self-limiting beliefs are.
It really helps you get real with what's really happening, because we don't really focus on those things to actually see what the mind's doing, because we get the issue, like it's like, okay, I want this, but I can't seem to get it. Why? And then we're not actually sitting down to break it down, like really seeing where that comes from.
Yeah. Do you have any tools or things that you use to help with them?
Yeah, that's usually what I do as well. It's basically sitting down with myself, focusing, kind of journaling what I'm aiming for. Why am I not getting that or doing that, or whatever the roadblocks are, I will just write them all out and then reverse it. Okay, now what can I do to change that? What can I do to feel better about that? What can I do to achieve that?
Yeah, it's important.
Those habits start to come out, and then sometimes there's limiting beliefs around habits.
Uh-huh.
So do you have a tip for that? Do you have a tip for that?
Of having limiting beliefs about habits? I don't know if I do.
I would
I've
assume
heard that.
I tend to do the same. I kind of break, I'm like, okay, let's break that down.
Yeah. I mean, I think a limiting belief around habits is that I have to be perfect in switching this habit, or else it's never going to go away. So just trying to remind myself that no matter what happened yesterday, today's a new day, and I can give it the old college try again and see what happens. But I don't know that I have any tips. I guess acknowledging yourself when you do what you want to do helps kind of cement that forward step for you.
Yeah, it's really just breaking it down, because we don't normally take that time to focus on ourselves like that. And it's setting aside that time and just focusing on and just asking ourselves those questions. And sometimes this is where coach is good, because when we hear a question, it's automatic. It's like, somebody asks me a question, it's like I have to respond, because it's a natural reaction. So I find that with a coach, it just comes out that much quicker, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
that makes sense, So doing the same thing on our own can be tough sometimes, because we're not as quick to pull out those things. We tend to avoid certain ones, or we can, our mind can help us to avoid certain areas and not really get to our truth.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of focus on meditation these days. It seems to be really buzzworthy. Yes. Where you're trying to clear your mind and be still and create some space. But I think it's just as important to create time for contemplation where you are, you're not doing anything, but you are actively trying to think and process what's going on with you, whether you're writing it down and journaling or doing it without writing it down. I think it's really important to kind of flush out some of these self-limiting beliefs.
Yeah, well, some of these things are habits too, and any habit, as we know, takes at least 21 days to form. So this is where the meditation comes in. Is like if you listen to a certain recording where they're altering the beliefs, so you're hearing the positive, reinforcing belief instead of the negative belief. You're hearing it while you sleep, and usually even with the theta sounds in the background as well, because it helps deepen the subconscious. Like the information goes deeper into the subconscious mind, so you're actually kind of anchoring it into the subconscious. So it is, I can attest to it. It does change certain beliefs without even realizing it.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard it can take up to 247 days to create a new habit. So
Yes, I've been. I listen to different ones, but usually at night. But I listen to them every night. So
yeah,
I wouldn't say it took 21 days. That's for sure. But they are very helpful. It does eventually kick in, and the brain starts to acknowledge them.
yeah. Yeah, I think even just looking at ourselves and what we do versus what we don't do, like that's, we tend to focus so much on what we don't get done during the day or what is missing
We're so
from
hard on ourselves.
Yeah, what's missing from our relationship, or what, instead of focusing on what's there, or what's good, and bringing more presence to that, I think can shift the limiting belief of, I don't have enough.
Yes, it's amazing how hard we are on ourselves. We are our own worst enemy. We're going to beat ourselves up 10 times more than anybody else
will. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there are things we say to ourselves that we would never say to another person.
Nope. Yeah. I know. I can be pretty brutal sometimes, and it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like I was just explaining to you earlier about Wednesday, I was so hard on myself, and I had a phone call with a friend, and then all of a sudden it was like, you're right. It was great. What was I thinking? But I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, did I say the right things? Am I okay? Yeah, okay. And then it's like, you decompress, and it's just hearing somebody else say that is like so reassuring. But prior to that conversation, I was like torturing myself.
Yeah. Yeah. We're real good at that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We know all our hot buttons.
Yeah. So in changing all these beliefs, what does that do for us?
Well, I mean, I like to say, if you're willing to work hard and you're open to exploring different, or you're open to exploring different options, and you're not really attached to any given outcome, there's nothing that you can't do. And so getting rid of these limiting beliefs, I think, really can.
Yeah, it's
create
making,
a world of
I look back now and see, how I would have behaved or reacted to something in the past, and now it's like I don't even give it a second thought, and then I'll sit back and go, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and the more we try these little things, it builds our confidence, and our comfort zone grows, and things that we may think of that are really hard to do now, at some point, if we're taking these little steps to get there, become a lot easier. And then we're thinking of whole new things to do that seem really hard, and then we can keep growing.
It's never ending, is it?
No, it never ends. There's always more to grow and learn and expand who we are. But even the idea of getting on Facebook Live at one point would have been something that I never would have said I would have done. So
yeah, a year and a half ago, I was there. It's like,
yeah.
oh my God, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. So I think anything's possible if you can become aware of what's getting in your way and work on it and, put in the work.
Yeah. And I find it very amazing. It's like when, like we're always looking for, new things, everybody, but we tend to look at stuff. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember for the longest time, I looked at it as stuff like, oh, I need to be like we talked about before, like the Joneses, I need this stuff and that stuff and this stuff and that stuff. But then when we start working on ourselves, it's like, oh, like I want to work more on myself. And then that becomes the new want and desire. It's like you keep improving yourself and learning different things, going different levels and just expanding in that way. And it's like a whole other world.
Yeah, Darren Hardy, who I listen to, always says the best investment you can ever make is in yourself.
Absolutely.
Because the more you grow, the more opportunities and things present them to you, and you'll if it's financial rewards you're after, by working on yourself, you'll improve yourself to where you can increase that if that's something that you want. But
and whoever said being an entrepreneur was easy is totally wrong.
They're absolutely wrong.
Because there's so much more. Like I grew personally for years, but then expanding in different ways. But then like to really expand the business was like a whole other world. This is like new adventure after adventure after adventure.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you find
I think last time we talked about how much I don't like roller coasters, but yet that's what this is a roller coaster.
yeah, yeah,
High emotions and low emotions and everything in
yeah,
between. So
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
And then like everything that we're adapting to, it's like, okay, you need to do this now, and then it's like, okay, now I need to do this now. And if I want to expand it at all, I'm gonna have to do that now. So it's like a new hurdle every time. It's like, you get stuck in those frustrations of, I don't know how to do all that. And then it's like, oh, just suck it up and figure it out. Sit down, watch those, videos and see how it's done, and you'll get it.
but it's interesting. You can apply that same thought process to a relationship though too, right? Where it's that's a roller coaster too. There, having been married for, I guess, almost 17 years, it sure hasn't been all highs.
Yeah. For us, it's been 27 years. We've married 16 years or 17 years.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. So
Yep.
I mean, it's ups and downs as well. So
Yeah.
you gotta do the work and believe in the relationship and what's possible for each of you separately and what's possible for you together.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is I tell people in my coaching that it just gets better all the time. It's like because you're learning and growing that much more, it gets 10 times better. Like you have no idea how great it can be until you start the process, because it's like night and day compared to when we first got together, and then when we started the coaching to today. Like it only amplified itself. The foundation
Yeah.
gets stronger. Your interactions together are stronger, more loving. I remember.
Yeah, but and if you're in one where it's not that way, it can feel like there's no hope, and that's another limiting belief, right? Is that this isn't ever going to get better, and as long as we believe that, it won't. But if we are able to set that aside and put in the work, it can.
Yeah, that's where we were. 5-6 years into our relationship, it was like we had separated so many times. Like it was a revolving door. Like people were going, "Oh my God, again!" Like, guys, get over it. It's not working. So we just hit that breaking point finally. It was like I was totally done.
Yeah.
So I never thought it was possible for us to actually work it out. If
So
you
what?
had told me 2 days prior to was going to coaching that it was going to get better, I would have told you you're full of baloney.
So what helped you overcome that? If you were done and you thought it was never going to get better, how'd you get past that?
The only thread I had was there was huge feelings between us. Like we did love each other, but everything else was a mess. Like literally everything else was a mess. Our communication, I mean, that's the biggie in a relationship. And it was like just two bulls going at it. It was bad.
Yeah.
And so it was just, we could never make ends meet. We could never make these agreements and things like that. And it just always seemed like it couldn't happen because it was just, we were too far on either side. And so it was going to coaching. He had suggested we go to a coach, and I was like, yeah, we tried counseling and we know where that went. Forget it. And he's like, no, I promise you, like, this is it. If this doesn't work, we're done. And I said, tell you what, I said, I'm going for me. And if we work out in the process, great. But if not, that's where we is. And so, yeah, my first session was a huge eye opener because it was a lot of you messages coming out of me. But that's how the information is, right? Like, that's where we're at. Mm-hmm. That is how we start with coaching. But it really opened my eyes to, what about what my needs are, where, am I voicing them, all these things. And it was like, it was like complete change to my system.
Yeah.
I had no idea that, you could even change anything, let alone our ability to communicate or, my own state of mind. What's wrong with my mindset?
Yeah.
It's just fine.
Yeah. Well, I think what you said was interesting, that you went and said, this is for me. And if we work out, great. And if not, okay, too. So there was no attachment to an outcome other than you putting in the work on yourself. And I, for us, I think the shift in limiting beliefs that it was going to work was that we wanted to try. Like, we both wanted to put in the effort to see if we could get it to work. Like, we both had to get there. I don't know that we were both there when we started, but getting to that point really allowed things to open up in a way that it wasn't before.
Yeah, because even those choice of words, it's you're not saying, like, even just by saying you're trying, it's the want is there. But when it's like, that's it, it's over, we're done, it's like eliminating the option that there's even a possibility. It's like, well, why would we bother? Because like, if my husband had said that to me, it'd be like, okay, well, then why bother? It's like, if the want isn't there, and that's part of it, is that piece of hope is, if the love is there, this might actually work. But if it's, not even mentioned, not even suggested, not even worth my time.
Yeah.
So I get how some people see that this is, the hard to actually do coaching or that type of thing, because they're in that place where they don't really know, if it's going to work or not. That hope piece isn't there. Or
without hope, there's not much left. But you can regain hope, even if it feels like it's not there now.
And there's so many limiting beliefs around that too, like even having that hope. So lots of limiting beliefs. They're everywhere. They're deep. They're dirty.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
Yeah. And they never end. There's always more, because we've talked to many people, many events, many situations where they just get fed into us. So next week, as you know, I'm going to be doing the Discover the Magical You 5-day challenge. And just so everybody knows, I spoke to Jeff, and he's going to be joining me for hopefully the entire couple hours on
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing a whole 2 hours of patterns. So reoccurring patterns in our life. So just a little hint, this is a prelude to those patterns, is these limiting beliefs. This is why these patterns happen and exist.
Yeah. Yep.
So big week next week. Very
Yeah.
excited. Should be fun.
A challenge is a good time. Good time to work on yourself.
Absolutely. This is getting in deep with those, asking all those questions, seeing where they all are hiding. It's going to be a fun week.
Make that investment in yourself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's it. You fire it at him, Jeff. Alrighty. Until next week, thank you for joining me again, and we'll see you next Friday.
All right. Sounds good. Have a great week,
Good
everybody.
weekend, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.